All right. We'll get started here. I know I said let's get started at the two after because I want to let people hop in, but we only have an hour here together. So I'm just going to go get started. But let's do a quick mic check because I want to make sure my tech is all working the way it should be. So in the chat below, can you guys post where you guys are from? Let's see where everybody's calling in from. And that'll make sure that everyone can hear me loud and clear. And it'll also kind of show up where people are from here. So let's see, we got people from right outside of Philadelphia. Welcome you. And we have Cameron from Addison, Illinois, right in my backyard. Might be a competitor, but that's fine. Welcome aboard. Zach's from Bama. Austin's from Iowa. Wes is from Columbus, Tucson, Calgary, Iowa, Central Minnesota, Addison, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Texas, Nashville. Pretty much from all across the US. This is super cool. Thanks everyone for joining us today. A couple of ground rules that I want to set for everybody. I guess a simple ground rule is play all out. So just like you guys, if I ask you guys to put something in the chat, it's very lonely here. I can't see all of you because of Zoom and such. So if you guys can actually use the chat aggressively, that gives me feedback. And don't hold back. If you have a question, throw it in the chat. I'll go back and help you guys answer that. And we put on this three-part webinar series because we're passionate here at Albi to propel the restoration industry forward. And we got a very special one with the first one. We're going to get into some spicy, controversial topics that are not very common within the industry, but that's our thing. We want to basically share different ideologies, different thought processes that are different to help move this industry of ours forward. So today we're going to talk about cash and getting paid. And that is basically the theme of this webinar. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to ask you guys if somebody could, or if you guys could just type in screen, if you can see my screen, that'll practice the whole being able to be interactive here. Can you guys see my screen here? All right, but the problem is it's probably showing the wrong screen. Give me one quick sec. You guys probably see the speaker screen with two parts, right? Speaker screen, if you guys see that, or do you guys see the one? Cami, help me out here. Yep, speaker screen. Let's try this again. Give me one quick sec here. All right. Now you guys should see the proper screen. Type in proper. If you guys see the proper screen, just somebody help me out. Great. Cool. Love this. I don't want this to be a boring webinar. That's why we started with music, and I absolutely love this. This is a good way for me to be able to interact with all of you guys. So I want to start off with a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is getting paid for you guys in the restoration industry? Scale of 1 to 10. Throw it in the chat there. 1,000, 10, 10, 10, 15. Okay, let's keep lighting up the chat. Everyone's 10. It's very important, right? For whatever reason, we live in this industry where we allegedly do the work first, then we wait to get paid later down the road. And it's a very interesting industry, very unique, right? Plumbers get paid before we get paid. Doctors get paid a lot of times before we get paid. Mechanics get paid before we get paid. But for whatever reason, us as restorers, we have to wait for insurance all this long time. And to kind of lay the groundwork of what we're going to talk about today is consistent cash flow is crucial towards building a sustainable restoration company. A lot of restorers struggle when they don't have consistent cash flow. And how many of you guys could relate to this? Have you guys ever been to the point where you went to your QuickBooks P&L and looked at the bottom of the P&L and saw that, hey, I made $278,000 this year or whatever that number may be. But then you went to your Chase bank account or whoever you bank with, and then you saw, oh, well, I only have 30,000. Well, where did the money go? Anybody relate to this? Say money if you relate to this, or if you've ever had a little moment like this. Sad face, money, cool. Yeah, this was the story with my dad and I. We had launched into the industry, I think it was like 2014, 2015-ish, and we got to our first $1 million of revenue within the first year. And then we continued scaling, right? We got from 1 to 3 the next year. And we had this aha moment where I was looking at my dad and I'm like, man, we literally went from $1 million to $3 million this year. And our bank account balance is still $40,000 on average. I thought we'd have a heck of a lot more money at $3 million than we did at $1 million. What's the problem here? And then one of our consultants kind of unpacked this turn on receivables problem. And I'll unpack that within this webinar as well. But bottom line is we struggle with cash flow within this industry because that's how this industry is. And we feel like we're stuck. We feel like we're afraid of hiring people. We feel that we don't know where to start to actually get our money. And lastly, we're not able to really make payroll. How many of you guys can relate with that? Maybe write the biggest pain point out of these 3 pain points. Is it you feel stuck? Do you feel afraid to hire people? Do you not know where to start? Are you unable to make payroll? What does that, how does that hurt you guys? Anthony doesn't know where to start. JJ doesn't know about growth. Zach may feel like he can't hire people. Stuck, payroll, stuck in hiring. Okay, hiring people, says Brian. 10 out of 10 to everybody, by the way, for responding back and forth to these. Really appreciate your feedback here. So my promise for you guys here today is that I'm going to unpack the step-by-step formula and give you a couple of practical frameworks you can take and apply to your restoration business today to shorten this thing called turn on receivables. My goal is everybody can walk out of this room today with a couple of different tactics that, again, they walk out and tomorrow you can start seeing your cash flow grow versus today. So if that is what you're here for, say present in the chat below, let me know that that is what you're here for. And if not, you guys could hop off. No harsh feelings. Cammy will write you a nice little note. Love this. And just a little bit about me, for those of you guys that don't know me, again, my dad and I, pictured over there on the left, we started a restoration company, Romex Restoration, within the Chicagoland. Shout out to all my Chicagoland peeps here. We still hold that company within the family. That company hasn't gone anywhere. It's beautiful. There's 80 to 90 employees, 8 figures plus of revenue. But over there in the middle, you could see kind of how we started. We actually started way worse off than most of you guys in this room. We didn't know what John Donner or Ramsco was. We started out with a shop vac, some Menards dehumidifiers, and some air movers from Menards, and that beat up Sprinter van there. And over about a period of 6 years, we had grown the company to what you see there on the right and what it is here today. And throughout that time, I realized that tech within the restoration space was rather outdated. I founded the company Albi, which is probably why most of you guys are here. Any Albi users on the platform? Type in Albi in the chat. Would love to shout you guys out and see you guys there. So we founded Albi as a job management system built specifically for restorers. And then from there, wrote the book, Restoration Millionaire. I don't know if any of you guys have read Restoration Millionaire, but if you haven't, chat book, and I'll give you the book for free actually on this webinar. But that documented our whole journey of growing our business from 0 to 8 figures in there. And then I also run a restoration mastermind called Evolve, where we coach restoration contractors. We have about 40 to 50 people there. And I also invest in restoration companies. So basically, long story short, is I love restoration. I'm all into restoration. I see myself many decades into this space, but that's just a quick backstory on myself. So in my book, I brought up this concept of the credit method. And this is like going to lay the foundation for what we're going to be talking about here today on the webinar. And the credit method is essentially one of the frameworks from the book that you should take and apply to your business to be able to shorten up your turn on receivables, which we'll talk about in a bit, and get you more cash in the bank. So the credit method, essentially, what we're going to be talking about is the C in the credit method is a credit line. I don't know if you guys knew, but for example, at Romex, we have this thing called a line of credit, which basically gives us access to cash that we could use to alleviate some of the cash flow pains. And then we also use consumer financing, which we'll talk a little bit, and it's going to completely debunk the way you've thought about restoration. So we'll dive into that a little bit. The R is for relationships. So a lot of times you build relationships with certain types of vendors that give you the E, which is extended payment terms. So I've done large losses. So for example, Wesley from Mason Dixon Restorations actually in this chat right now. He just landed a potential lead at this large Air Force base. It's probably going to be a $500,000 to $750,000 job. It's very hard for that small of a company to outlay the cash, but with proper vendors and proper relationships and extended payment terms, we're going to be able to manage the loss so they get paid when we get paid, which will help our cash flow and help us do that type of loss. Shout out to them, by the way. They're literally month number 2 within the restoration business, $250,000 collected so far, and a $700,000 or $500,000 to $700,000 job landed. So I want to give them a shout out, make sure they get some recognition here. Then D is deposits, which is probably controversial in the industry, but I'm going to debunk it. I was actually at Alacrity Access's conference yesterday, talking with Jeff Moore, president of ATI, and we were talking about this concept of taking a deposit up front when you do the mitigation work, doing all the work on a cash basis only, to where you don't really bill insurance, and what his thoughts were there, or at least getting the deductible up front. And he was fully supportive. And keep in mind, this guy runs a company that's, does $750 million to $1 billion a year within restoration work. And he's also like very in love with the carriers too. But he's like, yeah, no, when you get paid in full, it's cost incurred. There's really nothing the carrier can do, and it's very healthy for your business. So we'll talk about that. And then the I is interest-free credit cards, and how you could literally grow your business on a credit card. We'll talk about that. And then the T is tying commissions to payments. So I'm a firm believer that everybody within your company should be incentive-based pay, but I'm also a firm believer that you should not pay people out when you get the job. You should pay people out when the cash actually hits the bank. So we're going to dive into each one of these, and then I have another framework towards the end that I'll tell you guys more about. So the first thing I want to talk about is a business line of credit. Chat in the chat if you have a line of credit, right? LOC, if you currently have a line of credit that you use. LOC in the chat. Okay. A few people have it, but not many. Compared to the amount of people that had pains within receivables to the people that are chatting in here, LOC, very few. If you don't have an accounts receivable line of credit, go get one now. It is a no-brainer. So the way it works is essentially you go and you do all this work as a restoration contractor. You bill out, let's say, $100,000 this month, or let's say, over this quarter, you bill out $1 million worth of work, right? Then you have all these invoices outstanding to these customers that you're trying to collect. You're waiting for insurance to pay the customers to pay you. You're actually able to get 80% of what's owed to you from a bank in the term of a line of credit. So essentially, you can go to the bank and pull that money out of that line of credit and put it back as you please. And the interest rates are like super dirt cheap because you only pay for the time that you use it. So for example, we have a prime plus 0 line of credit. So that basically means that you pay about 8%. And we have about $2 million, which is about 70%-ish of our accounts receivable that we could just pull in whenever we need to. And you only pay interest monthly for the time that you use it. But anyway, that interest is pennies on the dollar. And it helps you basically use that cash to keep growing your business and keep your business afloat while you're waiting to collect money. The other thing is it gives you optionality. So if you guys land a large job that you can't, potentially float. So like, let's say you get a $500,000 job. If you've got a $500,000 line of credit, you're more willing to take that job versus if you don't, you're probably going to be like, man, how am I going to fund this job? How am I going to take care of this job? So now the key with lines of credit is to go to a local bank, find a local small bank. And right now with the interest rate environments, they're all super pumped and super excited. If you guys need help for, a recommendation or whatnot, you can shoot us an email or shoot me an email, hello@alexstudio.com. Maybe Cami, you could drop that in. And what I could do is actually maybe connect you, ask a couple of people in different markets what they're using. And if you're in Chicagoland, like Old Second, Republic Bank, there's another one, ACBT, it's called, American Commercial Bank and Trust. There's a bunch of local banks that will be very, very happy to lend you that money. And it helps. Now, this isn't the holy grail. There's going to be a lot of more mic drop moments later on in this webinar, but just in general, this is basics 101. If you take nothing else from this webinar, go open up that line of credit. It will help you tremendously. The C is consumer financing. And this is where that spicy part of the webinar is going to start. So the entire industry has this status quo where they sign a work authorization, they take no money from the customer, and then they go bill insurance. And in fact, if you look at 100 restoration companies, they have the same stuff on their website: BBVA plus rated, 24/7 emergency response, and insurance collection. So if you use a work auth currently in your business and you wait to get paid by insurance later down and you don't collect anything from the customer right now, can you type in work auth or WO in the chat just to kind of get a pulse? I think most of you guys, if not all of you guys, follow that process. Here's the deal. This thing was created back when insurance companies and contractors used to be best friends. If you were in the industry 20 years ago, you knew that an insurance adjuster would literally come on site with a checkbook, sign you a check, and give you whatever your invoice was. There's no beating up and stuff like that. Those are old business practices that were created back then that have not been modulated up until now. And in fact, the way I know this is when I was looking for this picture, I literally searched work authorization on Google, and I literally found on the images, like this Blue Sky one, I didn't take it from Blue Sky. There's a ton, there's hundreds on there. I think that as an industry, we have the right to choose what we want to do, and there might be a better way from a cash flow perspective. And I'm not here to tell you guys to completely throw away the work authorization. I'm just here to push on the fact that there's a little bit of a better way. And I'll give you a couple examples. I've got a client I privately coached in Seattle, Washington, that went completely cash on delivery for his first $3 million a year of revenue. He literally did not know how to write Xactimate, did not know how to deal with insurance adjusters, did not know any of that. He would go. We had a quick scope method, we called it. It's like, hey, Mr. Homeowner, it's $20,000 to $30,000. Sign, pay me 50%. I do the work. You pay me 50% after, everything through QuickBooks. Totally doable. And there are a minority percentage, a small percentage of restorers that actively deploy those practices together currently. Not deceitful. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you feel called to that, I strongly recommend you start tinkering with this and trying it out. Now, the problem is you're going to say, well, Alex, most homeowners can't pay for the water mitigation work cash on delivery. And also, Alex, when I'm competing against Big Green and Big Yellow, it's going to be very hard if somebody else has the value prop of a work authorization versus not. But just know, if you're a good enough salesperson and you have a good enough service and people trust you, you will be able to, and you can, if you choose that method, go completely cash on delivery. That is doable. There's restorers in your market doing that currently today. It's just not very, highly spoken about. I don't know why we don't talk about these things at the RIA and stuff like that, but I'm here to change that. But the next level to this is consumer financing. And the way I learned about this is I saw that I had the sewer loss. And basically a sewer pipe had broken in the ground at a homeowner's house and flooded the basement with sewage water, right? It was like a $15,000 or $10 to $15,000 sewer job that I had. And we get there, we start doing the work, but then I see the plumbers going out there digging and taking care of the pipe and all of that. And eventually I'm given this invoice from the plumber to tender over to the insurance company. The homeowner was asking me to help, give that documentation to the insurance company. And when I look at the invoice, it was a $20,000 invoice and it was paid in full. I'm like, what in the world? This plumber showed up before I showed up, signed up this homeowner, did all the work, and got paid $20,000 in full. And I'm sitting here with my little work authorization, not doing anything. And I asked them, well, what did you do, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner? And the homeowner told me, yeah, we just financed the thing and we have an $800 a month payment and it's 0% interest. I'm like, oh. And the minute I went with that invoice to the insurance company couldn't beat me up on that invoice or anything like that because it's cost incurred. If you actually read insurance policy language, like most homeowner policies, there's different types, right? But the most common one is an all risk policy that pays for everything based on cost incurred. Now, when we write our handy dandy Xactimate estimate and we have a work auth, which is not even a contract that even stands up in court because there's no material consideration, we get beat up like nobody. But the minute you have a paid in full invoice, it's like, sorry, it's paid in full, it's cost incurred, can't really do much. Now, here's the thing that I learned from that homeowner. I'm like, so why did you end up financing that? And what was the most attractive part? And the plumber sold this to the homeowner saying the following: Mr. Homeowner, you have some outstanding debt, right? Yeah. Well, why don't you pay us and finance it for $800 a month at 0% interest? And when you get that $20,000 from the insurance company, go pay off some debt that you have more than 0% interest on. And the homeowner was super proud about that. And actually, if you look at it, the average homeowner, here's a couple of facts. The average homeowner has purchasing power for the average water mitigation job. The average water mitigation job is $10,000. The average homeowner can buy a $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 car, which is nice to have. The second fact is The most valuable asset of the average homeowner is their home. So if you completely want to look at this in a pessimistic way, if you completely eliminate insurance, somebody still needs to do the work on these people's homes because it's the most valuable asset. They don't want mold, they don't want damage, stuff like that. And the third part is we can go in and finance these homeowners and they'll pay a nominal amount monthly. We can do it through Green Sky, through WiseTech, through a few others. And we just have to change up our process a little bit. And then the other thing is the way I recommend you guys quote these things out, whether you do cash jobs or whether you do financing, is using the verbiage there. Let's not get into the detailed itemized minutia where we could get beat up. It's literally like homeowner. For $10,000, I will extract the water, remove affected building material, apply antimicrobial, place the drying equipment, dry your structure to the dry standard, and get out of your hair. $10,000. Signed, financed, done. And I'll help you if the insurance company comes back to you and says, hey, look, I don't know, like you overcharged or whatever. I'll stand behind my work. If the insurance company says I didn't dry to the dry standard, I'll show them that. But that's what it is. So I think if you're not applying consumer financing, is anybody in here doing consumer financing, right? Consumer financing in the chat below. Let's see if we can get some social proof off this. But if you're not doing consumer financing within restoration, you're behind, just like the other trades, and it will help your cash flow enormously. And there's all these technology solutions out there that make it very easy to do this. Green Sky has an app. And by the way, I'm not sitting here trying to push you one way or the other. You guys could do your own homework. We will probably at Albi we will for sure at Albi within the next 12 months have a product. So if you want to wait till Albi launches it, that's fine too. But go out and do your research. But I want everybody in this call to be bought in on two things. One is I have other options other than the work off game. And two is I can leverage consumer financing to shift the skin in the game on the homeowner, because that's legitimately where it should be. Moving on to relationships and extended payment terms. How many of you guys have net 60 relationships? Write net 60 in the chat. Let's see. Okay, couple people. One person. All right, couple. There we go. For those of you that don't have net 60 relationships, you should get net 60 relationships with as many people as you can possibly. Because check this out. Your job gets started on day 0, right? You get the mitigation job or whatever job it is, right? You order your materials and equipment on that day. So let's say you go to a Sunbelt Rentals or you buy some extra stuff from John Don or whatever. You go to Home Depot. You get a bill from them in 10 days, and that bill has net 60 terms or net 30 terms. That just basically means that there's no payment needed for 30 to 60 days. It's basically that supplier or manufacturer is giving you the ability to pay your bill in 60 days versus now. Well, on average, we get paid a lot quicker than 60 days. So if we get the job paid by day 50, we're not carrying that cost of whatever vendor we used. So you should be looking for these like everywhere you can, every single relationship you have, and you should be shifting your purchasing behavior towards people that could offer you net 60. John Don, unfortunately, went out of business yesterday, which is unfortunate for this conversation here. But, Aramco, Interlink, all these others have it. Yeah, Austin, John Don got bought by Aramco and a bunch of locations got shut down. It's kind of like industry news. But anyway, Aramco, Interlink Supply, all those suppliers that want your business can give you net 60. Home Depot, for example, has the commercial account where you get a bunch of perks and you go into Home Depot and everything you get from Home Depot, you have 60 days to pay it back, right? And there's so many suppliers, Sherwin-Williams. Home Depot typically does this. Yes, Anthony, Home Depot has that. You just go to the Pro Desk and you sign up for a commercial account with them, and they happily do it. Any sort of, if you're doing reconstruction, all of your, exterior suppliers, all of your lumber houses, everybody can give you these terms. And the goal here is if I can move the time that I have to pay the cash out forward, it buys me enough time to go collect the money from insurance if I still choose to be on the work authorization front. Because at the end of the day, right, when you see that profit and loss that we started the conversation with earlier today, that $200,000 of profit, It's like accrual-based profit. It's the profit that we're supposed to make if we collect everything on time. Now, moving on to my favorite controversial topic, and I don't even know why this is controversial, but apparently it is into the industry, is deposits. Why are we waiting for insurance to collect the deductible? Like literally, the deductible, the average deductible right now in the United States is $2,000. Your average direct job costs for the job are about $2,640. Your average mitigation job is $8,000. 33% is the numbers that I use if you care about the math. If you're not taking your deductible up front, you're basically fronting $2,640 worth of costs and just waiting to get paid later down the road. Why? Doctors collect a copay up front. You go to the doctor's office, they swipe the copay up front. Plumbers get paid before the work, but whatever. There are special brothers within the trades. But why in the world are we waiting till after? Well, there's myths, right? It's illegal to collect deductibles up front. No, it's not. Insurance carriers have no problem. They actually want the homeowners to pay those deductibles. Like, how many of you guys are collecting deductibles up front? Day one when you start the job, write deductible down in the chat. Probably nobody. Wes. Yes, there we go. Yeah, Wesley, my star pupil here. A lot of people are like skeptical for whatever reason to ask for money. It's like, Mr. Homeowner, I'm doing an $8,000 job for you. I'm going to be deploying all this equipment. I'm going to have $50,000 worth of equipment sitting in your house for 3 days to dry it out. Why am I uncomfortable asking for the deductible up front? Like at the very least, if you're uncomfortable with financing or you're uncomfortable with cash on delivery, I get it. But having some sort of payment when you start the job should become an industry norm, and it's not currently. And what it does is it completely de-risks your mitigation project, because that deductible equates for how much money you spent for the guys, for the lead to the plumber or whatever, and also for all the paper, plastic, and everything else you used on the job. It completely de-risks it. So then you're just waiting for profit from the insurance company if you choose to play that game. Again, I want to stress the fact that you guys have the choice. You guys get to choose to play this game if you guys want to. Now, this is what I'm excited about Albi. I don't know if there's any Albi Pay users out there, chat Albi Pay, but we've basically built a tool called Albi Pay that currently does exactly that. You sign the work authorization. You're able, when you sign the work authorization, to collect the payment method on file. You're able to actually hit the deductible from the minute you actually sign that work authorization or gather some sort of deposit. And then you're able to keep the homeowner's credit card or ACH method on file. And if they play hardball or they're not paying you after the insurance has paid them, you can run their payment. That's what happens when you rent a car from Hertz. You go to Hertz. Yeah, what do they ask for? A credit card on file. If you run away with the car, what are they going to do? Charge your card. If you racked up the bill on gas or you damage the car, what do? They charge your card. So why aren't we doing this as an industry? So this is what Albi Pay does. It's available in web and mobile, and it essentially enables your technicians from the front of line to capture this card information up front. Now, we're not stopping just here. The future of Albi Pay will be, and maybe some people will get mad at me for sharing this, but I'll share it anyway because I'm super passionate about it. We're working on check scanning. So your ability to sign a front and the back of a check and solve the 3 to 4 endorsement problem. So you'll be able to process checks with multi-parties and just have them do an electronic signature versus playing petition around with the checks. We're also working on payments out within Albi Pay. So by the end of the year, we'll have the ability for you to pay your subcontractors, your referral fees and stuff like that straight from Albi. And then also by beginning of next year, we'll have consumer-based financing built within Albi. So you can actually finance the consumer through the Albi app versus having to go look for something else. But I don't want this to just be the Albi pitch. If you don't want to use Albi and you, for whatever reason, I respect that. Go to Stripe, go to QuickBooks, go find some other payment processor and have your technicians walk around with a payment processing device and go through the extra work of flipping back and forth, but still get a deductible up front, guys. It's going to de-risk your entire mitigation project. Your cash flow will thank you later. Wesley said we have only had 6 customers out of 60 projects that have one that did not have the money to pay their deductible up front. And there's where you go, 10%. So I'm going to pause here. Scale of 1 to 10. How's the value so far on the webinar before we continue? We're about at the halfway point. Drop it in the chat below. Scale of 1 to 10. How much value did you get so far? Love this. Cool. This is great. Appreciate you guys. And also, like, I need sincere honesty too. If you guys believe that I said something out of whack or whatever, drop it in there too. I love the feedback. Here's where things get even more exciting. So when I moved over from restoration and started operating a software company, I realized really quickly how blessed we are in restoration. Even with all the problems, we're able to finance our growth on a credit card. And I'll tell you guys more about this in a sec, but let me tell you about software real quick. On average, it costs us about $15,000 to $20,000 all in to acquire an Albi customer. The average Albi customer pays about $12,000 to $15,000 a year. So it takes us about a year to a year and a half to pay back a customer. Meaning we have to front up all those costs in sales, marketing, Cammy's sitting here rocking on and all the ad spend and all that stuff until we're able to recoup that money back. Now, the beautiful part is it's recurring revenue. So eventually down the road, it's profitable. It still makes sense. But the beautiful part about restoration is it doesn't take you that long. The average job, a $10,000 job, costs you about 10 to 20% to acquire. So that's $1,000 to $2,000. And if you're really bad, you get paid in 90 days. So really, if you're really bad, you get paid back to cover your marketing costs within 90 days. That's pretty freaking sweet. And here's the deal. If you leverage credit cards, if you leverage interest-only credit cards and you get that interest-only period, you can rock and roll, especially if you're at the beginning. You can get a $20,000 to $30,000 interest-only credit card, which means that for a whole year, you pay no interest. But even on a regular credit card, there's a period of time where it's interest-free. And you could literally finance your growth via Google Ads and your credit card. How many of you guys run Google Ads or LSA? Type that in, ads, in the chat. We'll see as that pops in. Like, that's the first fishing hole you should absolutely start doing. And I talk about it in my book because it's super easy. Here's the deal. You spend the money on a credit card on day 0 and you typically get the job right away, right? Like if somebody's searching for you, they're not searching for you for a whole 2 weeks to do their homework on whether they want to use you or not. They're typically standing in a foot of poop water and they need somebody right away. So the minute they click, you spend the money with Google, but within 24 to 48 hours, you're getting that job or you're not. Well, from there, you're going to invoice it within 10 days. I hope even sooner, right? Because the average job takes 3 to 5 days to do, right? So hopefully you're invoicing within 10 days. Hopefully you're getting paid within 40 to 50 days after getting invoiced. So you're getting paid by day 50. And by the way, if you do that, you're mediocre. Like, it's not that great. World-class people get paid less than 30 days. But let's say you're on average getting paid in 50 days. There you go. But if you look at the bottom, what happens? You spend your money on the credit card on day 0. Your billing statement doesn't come out for another 30 days. And then once your statement comes out, you have 30 days to pay. So you essentially have a 60-day period of free freaking money. So if you get a $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 credit card, you can then use that money, spend it on your ad agency and online marketing. And if it works, again, this is all great. If it works to plan, you spend it there and you have an interest-free growth machine. You don't need to go into your actual checking account and fund your growth that way. You could literally grow it on a credit card. And heck, $30,000 to $40,000 a month worth of online marketing spend at least will get you 150 grand of revenue every single month. So like, the money just makes sense. So if you're not using a credit card wisely or interest-free credit cards at all, consider this a way to maybe shift your perspective and another way to help your cash flow issues. Now the T, tag commission to cash payments. I'm a firm believer that every employee within your company should be on a performance-based compensation plan. Maybe your helpers or technicians might not, but everybody else from crew chief upwards should. Crew chiefs, percentage of the revenue that you produce. Project managers, percentage of the revenue that you sold, right? Moving on to estimators, percentage of the revenue that you build. AR people, percentage of the revenue that you collected. But here's the caveat. Doing it based on invoice value and at the time of invoice will hurt your cash flow, because now you're fronting that project manager or the crew chief the money, and then you wait to get paid. But what you could actually do is if you tie it to the cash, meaning saying, hey, look, I will pay you 5% of the job when I get paid, that will help make your cash flow a heck of a lot better. So next, I want to talk about this concept of turn on receivables. How many of you guys know what your turn on receivable is right now? Right? Just chat, put it in the chat right now, the number of your turn on receivables. Some of you guys are going to be shy, but throw it in there if you know. And if you don't, I assume you don't know what it is. Okay. Greg says 45. And that's about it. So turn on receivables is how quickly you're able to turn the money that is owed to you, right? And by turn it's basically collecting, right? And it's nice because there's a quick little formula, and each and every one of you guys should look at this trend on a weekly basis. And most of us get flustered because we don't know how to measure it. So I just want to show it to you. It's very simple. So it's your total accounts receivable, which is how much money is owed to you, divided by your 90-day monthly average sales times 30. So your total accounts receivable, the way you find that out is you go to your QuickBooks or whatever bookkeeping service you have, and you go to reports, and you go to accounts receivable aging summary. And you scroll all the way down, and it'll show you the sum of all the money that's owed to you. Let's say $2 million. And then your 90-day average monthly sales is basically how much revenue you build in the last 90 days. So let's just say I build $3 million in the last average 90 days. And I divide that by 3, so that's $1 million. So now if I have $2 million outstanding, and on average I do $1 million a month, I have 2 months worth of accounts receivable. 2 times 30 is 60 days. So it's cool, easy math. And this is the simplest way. If you guys want to screenshot this or take a picture of this, feel free to take a picture of it. And that's how you calculate it. The goal is to be sub 35 days. So look, Wesley, rocking on. The collection agency that Wesley uses gets the check in the mail within 15 days consistently over like $12 million worth of revenue. It's Oak Estimates. If you guys haven't used them, shout out to Alex Dalgard. He's an ex-restoration general manager that moved to estimating. 35 to 60 days, you're okay. If you're greater than 60 days, you're probably hurting big time, and you're actually not going to be able to scale your business. So you really need to fix that. The next thing is the 48-hour rule framework. And this one's very simple, but most people don't really do this. And it's actually rather interesting. So the average file takes about 15 days from the minute, or 15 touches from the minute you invoice it to the minute it gets paid. And what I mean by that is it takes 15 times. They have to pick up the phone, go call the materially interested parties. Hey, State Farm, did you get my estimate? Yeah, State Farm, you got it. Okay, cool. Then we have to call again and be like, hey, you promised me an answer. Go back and forth. Write relate if you agree with that. Like, it takes like all these stupid little phone calls to actually get them, and it just keeps like moving and moving and moving. But it takes 15 times touches. So if you wait 4 days in between every single touch, 4 times 15 is 60 days turn on receivable. But if you shorten the time in between touches to every 2 days, it's 30 days turn on receivables. So essentially what I'm trying to say here is be pleasantly persistent. Make sure you invoice the job within 48 hours. So that's like another lag. Most of us don't invoice the job until 2 weeks because we forgot it, something's broken there. But if you really want to get paid in time and you choose to not do consumer financing, cash on delivery, or deductibles, at least take this word of advice. And if you choose to do everything else, still take this word of advice and essentially make sure that from the time you invoice to the time, from the time you finish the job to the time you invoice, it's no more than 48 hours. And it's totally freaking doable. And then be pleasantly persistent. Don't be aggressive. Don't be mean. Don't be rude. Pleasantly persistent. Every 48 hours, essentially letting every single materially interested party know that, hey, there's a $10,000 invoice outstanding. And you ask, hey, When can I hear back from you? And do that every 48 hours, and also set the standard of we get paid within 30 days. If you just properly onboard every single customer and you repeat this over and over from day one, and you believe it 100% of the time that that's how you deserve to get paid, you want to be like Wesley here, who chatted 35 days, you will be able to do it. Now, you're going to need to do certain things to track it and such, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, here's the Albi sales pitch. Again, where are my Albi fans here? Chat Albi in the chat. Some of you guys probably don't even know some of the things we have. So I would love to actually have you guys reach out to your account managers, get training on this additional stuff that you have. But Albi Core is a job management system and CRM, and it's an all-in-one system of record for restoration companies. So everything from the minute the phone call comes in, we have a recording tool, the phone lead gets captured there, the project and the notes and everything like that is captured. We have a mobile app where you have photos, videos, documents, all that stuff. A report tool where you can have that dry log report built and so on and so forth. It's basically like Dash, Encircle, PSA, whatever, all had a baby together and it's all in one. And that's just Albi Core. Albi Pay is a payment rail purpose built for restoration companies. So that allows you to get credit cards, ACH methods up front. That's what's currently available within market right to this day. Now, we are building Albi Payment Out, and we are building Albi Check Scanning to help you guys get paid on different other things as well. Those are coming out in the future. Albi Analytics is real-time reporting, and the way it can help you get paid is when you look at the 48-hour rule, we actually have team members that have built, or a customer of ours that have built 48-hour rule dashboards so they could see every single account and see when was the last time that that account got paid. And then Albi Automations is an automated workflow tool that we can build automated text messages, emails, tasks, reminders, so that way your entire team could be up to speed. In fact, with Albi Automations, you could actually, and I could probably do a separate webinar on that, but you can maybe even get your projects to feed via Zapier to OpenAI and have like a little AI bot review every single criteria that you want every project to meet, and then flag the projects that did not meet a certain criteria. But all these four things are purposefully built for the restoration industry. And the fun part is we're just getting started. If any of you guys on here do not know about Albi or want to book a demo, write demo in the chat below and we'll help you. And then if you're an Albi customer and want to learn more about pay, analytics, or automations, just write customer. And we'll get you in touch with your account manager so that way they could talk to you about those other things. And then the last thing that we're doing here at Albi, we spend a lot of money, energy, resources in changing the narrative in the restoration industry. So if you follow us at Albi HQ on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, whatever your medium of choice is, you will find a lot of different types of videos that help you basically give you the knowledge that you need to scale your restoration business. And if nothing else, like it would be a 10 out of 10 for me if every one of you guys on this call, whether you're an Albi customer or not, whether you like Albi or don't like Albi, whatever it might be, if you could actually just share that at Albi HQ and start sharing it, maybe subscribing and such, I know it'll pay dividends for the industry. And at the end of the day, like my mission is to change this beautiful industry we're within. And sure, if we gain some customers along the way and we grow a beautiful business along the way, that's awesome. But first and foremost, what we want to do is propel the restoration industry forward. And then lastly, if you guys want to follow us on socials, me personally at It's Alex Duda on your favorite socials, Albi at Albi HQ. And what I'll do next is open it up for the next 15 minutes for questions. I'd love to hear your insights. But before we do that, let's do another temperature check. Scale of 1 to 10. How impactful, how valuable, how changing was this for your restoration business? Love this. Awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add people into the room that raise their hand. So it looks like Debbie, you're up first, but that's exactly how we'll do it. So there's a hand raise toggle. If you have a question, get into the queue by raising your hand. The hand raise toggle is right next to your share button if you have a share button. So there's a little hand raise hand toggle. raise your hand. And then what I'll do is I'll bring you in here and we can chat together. So let's add you in here, Debbie. Let's see if this will work. All right, Debbie, you're in here. I think you can unmute yourself. Can you hear us, Debbie? Maybe not. Oh, okay. You're on a work call. Okay, no worries. We'll remove you from here. If anybody else has a question also, you could also type question in the chat below and we'll bring you on here too. I would like the recording as well. Yes, we will get you the recording. So David, yes, this will be recording and we will share it regardless of if you're an Albi client or not. We're actually going to share this with the entire industry and you could share it with your partners and have them learn all about this. And yeah, Yasif, same thing. We'll get you that recording as well. How does deductible work to pay for mitigation only when it's typically taken out of rebuild? Love that question, Brian. Yes. And more people ask questions like Brian. So here's what we need to shift our mind around. It doesn't matter what gets taken out of what. And yes, you're right. There's a status quo that the deductible gets taken out of the rebuild and the mitigation gets paid directly to the contractor in full. Great. I would love to have a problem where I have to refund or recredit or move the money around because I got overpaid 90 days later. So worst comes to worst, right? If they don't take the deductible out of the mitigation and they take it out of rebuild, well, what's going to happen? You're going to have the full mitigation paid in full, and you're going to have a $2,600 deductible that was paid from the customer already. And if you're not doing the rebuild, you're just going to refund them $2,600 because you got overpaid, basically. If you do the rebuild, then you just take that $2,600 and move it over to the rebuild. But the beautiful part is you got that money up front. You're in control of those funds. I don't know if that made sense, Brian. But yeah, I mean, just because the insurance company has some sort of process of where we take stuff out does not mean that we don't deserve to get paid something before we start work, some sort of deposit, some sort of skin in the game. Yes, that's what I always thought until a few weeks ago, USA took the deductible out of the mitigation. Yeah, there you go, Yasif. You could also just write them an email and say, hey, look, like the invoice could literally be, here's the invoice minus $2,500. The outstanding balance for mitigation is whatever the bill was minus the $2,500. But control your destiny. Any other questions? Throw them in the chat if you guys don't want to come here live and show face to everybody. We have another 11 minutes, and I'd love to spend this time unblocking people. Who was Wes using again? For collections, Oak Estimates. Alex Dalgard, Oak Estimates. And Matt, you're an Evolve member. So he's an Evolve partner. By the way, yeah, that's another thing. If you guys, I mentioned Evolve a couple of times, that's our restoration mastermind. So if you want to see things like these, webinars like these every single week and get a dedicated coach and such, connect with me on Facebook and I can put you in touch with the Evolve team. How does the carrier mitigation specialist handle scrutinizing a mitigation invoice after it's been paid? Well, that's the thing. They have no leverage once they get paid. Like they try to throw a hissy fit, but here's the deal. When you get paid in full, it's cost incurred. They can't do anything. And if they want to screw over their homeowner, they're the ones screwing over their homeowner. So yeah, I mean, Jeff Moore was telling me like he had, a large commercial loss where he got paid $750,000 up front for the entire job. And then the insurance company came in and said, oh, well, JS Health got involved and the consultant wrote it at $400. Well, great. I'm happy to have a conversation with them, but I'm going to stand by my work. I didn't upcharge anything. You should also, by the way, not be overcharging and you should be billing properly. But yeah, I mean, they could throw as many hissy fits as they want. And here's the beautiful part, Greg. Here's my dream for the restoration industry. If we start doing this, we start having actual price lists built for the industry. Imagine this. Imagine if 40% of the industry went cash on delivery with consumer-based financing, and the industry sold jobs for the average hourly rate for a technician being $150. You get true market dynamics because the homeowners are actually hiring these restoration companies to solve the need for $150 an hour. Verisk's pricing algorithm and just in general, the entire industry is not a fair market because everybody just follows whatever everybody wants to follow. If the industry moves over and uses financial services as leverage, it's going to be huge. And then I think we can start having more power as restoration contractors too. Imagine having the industry move away and imagine the insurance companies. Right now, the insurance companies, they think all their problems are due to the restoration companies and they're poking fingers. But we know the average restoration company doesn't really make a lot of profit. I mean, average restoration company only makes 20 to 30% net EBITDA, which is no different than a plumbing company and stuff like that. It's not like they're price gouging. It's not like restorers are running around in Lambos and Rolls Royces and, screwing over everybody. They're making a fair living. Where the insurance companies just point outwards because they don't want to admit to their own problems. The reason the insurance companies are losing money is because they have all of these layers of complexity within their claims process. So if we can get leverage as restorers, and if we start using consumer financing deductibles and say, look, insurance, I don't need you. I don't rely on you. They'll start looking inwards and be like, how do we solve these problems? At what point do you add another employee in the mix? About how many jobs per week can a tech handle if I'm looking at it the right way? Love that, Yasif. So I believe, and we have our whole Evolve Accelerator program is focused around getting you to like your first million. And then we have the Evolve program where we coach people on this stuff. But about $1 million is like my magical number of production per a two-man crew. So if you're doing less than $1 million a year, it should be you, maybe an office person, and one crew. That's kind of like the lean and mean formula for $1 million a year. And if you're growing, right, like in your first year, you're going to get to an $83,000 a month, let's say in quarter three. Once you start pushing 80 to 90K per month, you should add your second crew. And then you grow into your second crew. And then you add your third crew and such. So, but yeah, in general, I kind of look at, 3-ish jobs per week and about $1 million a year. It's kind of what it shakes out to be per crew. Anthony, although it takes time to get paid, I feel like we have never lost on a mitigation job by invoicing the carriers and not the client, and it makes it drastically easier to sell the job and with the value add. Do you not see it more difficult to sell the job otherwise and cause the sales to slip? No, I think that's the fundamental negative self-limiting belief. Because is the plumber losing the job when they come in on that route out? Like, I see what you're saying. If as an industry, we're lazy salespeople, sorry, our restoration company included, by the way. We do a lot of like insurance direct work too. And, 30 to 40% close rate. So like Rome Xterra is not a great closing organization. Sorry if anybody on this call is from Rome Xterra, but we're not, right? But as an industry in general, we don't do a good enough job in home sales. But I don't think the answer to that is bow down to the carriers because it's easier to sell that way. And I also think that, hey, you could take your family to Disney World, or hey, you can pay off some other debt is actually an even more valuable time stack or value stack. So I find that the insurance companies are not paying the bill. It is half sometimes of what is owed. That's their problem. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at it, the homeowner is the only one that could do something about this, right? If they want to cut the bill in half, us restorers, we can't do anything. I know there was the whole, hey, go the assignment of benefits route and Andy McCabe and the PAs and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we can sit here and scream and kick down and stuff like that. But the only person that truly has the power to get paid what is owed is the homeowner because they're the policyholder. So if the insurance company comes in there and pays only half of the bill of what they paid to the contractor and they're half in debt, they're going to do something about it. And they are the ones who have leverage about it. And they're the ones that are getting screwed over. Versus if we take a 50% cut, we're just getting screwed over and nobody can do anything about that. We don't have a contract with the insurance company. We don't have an agreement there. So I think that in general, but also the other thing is like empowering the homeowner to know, no, this is the cost that you incurred, pointing them to the policy and be like, hey, in your policy, it says this. Do you jump to lien quicker if the client can't/won't pay? Absolutely. I think everybody should have a lien on the property within the first 90 days, whether they have a friendly relationship with the client or not. They're perfectly happy with their mortgage and their mortgage company has a lien. Why should we not place a lien? Because it's offensive? Well, we can't place a lien past day 90 and we didn't get paid. So we have to protect our interests somehow. I sometimes feel that way leaves a bad taste on the insurance and gives them this idea that we are scamming and too much money is asked type thing when bills are cut in half. Yeah, I'm not sure, Austin, where we're going with this, but again, I think as an industry, well, when people react that way, it shows them where they're not free. We know for a fact that as an industry, we are not scamming. For a business to have 20% EBITDA, 20% net income, that is not scamming. Period, full stop. In fact, go look at some insurance carriers and see how much net profit they make. Some of them make actually way more than that. Go look at healthcare and see how much profit they make. Go look at coaching, consulting, 20% accrual-based growth profit is not scamming. And who cares what they think? We need to be here to serve our customers. We need to be here to be able to give our employees a living wage. We need to be here to get what we deserve so that way we can build valuable companies. Brian, no preferred vendor list. And Bob, I like that generalization, but here's the deal. Even with that fear, do you guys know that less than 20% of the industry goes through a program? Like literally look it up. Or go to the Alacrity conference and go to the Contractor Connection conference. Both of them combined have processed less than $1.5 billion worth of revenue. And they were boasting about this on stage. Okay. 1.5 billion out of 80 billion on the low end is what? 1 out of 8. It's like 12%. And then, yeah, there's the ServPros, the Paul Davises, the whatever that have these larger agreements on the corporate side. Let's just say there's 20 billion out of $80 billion goes through vendor programs. That is such a small percentage of the industry. It's the biggest illusion and misconception that, oh, the insurance companies are in control. And the reason behind that is insurance companies don't have control over what's called the first notice of loss. When you have a loss at your house, you're not going to think of calling the insurance company right away. You're going to think of calling the plumber. You're going to think of calling the agent. You're going to go on Google and find somebody to help. And then eventually you get to insurance. And yeah, some people think the industry is shifting more towards TPA. Other people think away from TPA. But yeah, I mean, I personally have built our restoration company. All the businesses I invest in are non-TPA. Jeff Moore himself, president of ATI, buys restoration companies. You can look on Albi After Hours. There's a whole podcast with Jeff Moore where he says he pays a premium for restoration companies that don't do TPA work. And that is because restoration companies that don't do TPA work are more valuable because they have local relationships that are very valuable versus the ones that do TPA work. And in fact, most of the ServPros or Paul Davises, just go talk to your local franchisee and ask them how much work do they get from corporate. And you'll actually find that most of them don't get that much work from corporate. Even the 100% TPA only franchisees like the ServPros and the Service Masters of the world don't get a lot of TPA work. So it is the minority of the market. That's like another myth that I love busting all the time. All right, pros and cons of TPA. I would just not do TPA because here's the deal, Brian. Even if you sign up for a TPA tomorrow, it's not like you're going to be flooded and flush with work. And in fact, even at Albi, we come across a lot of contractors. Oh yeah, we do TPA work. What percentage of your work comes from TPA? Like 15, 20, 30%. Every market has like the King Kong gorilla of TPA that gets all the work. But then afterwards, there's a bunch of people that are just on TPA programs that don't get much work. So I would look and I would follow the Restoration Millionaire method towards growing and scaling your business. Follow that step by step and build it. I would build it non-TPA. The most valuable companies that I've seen were built non-TPA. What's a healthy close rate for a mid contractor given everything we discussed here? Oh boy. I mean, I think if you're less than 30 to 40%, presuming a lot of lost jobs because of upfront payments. Yeah, I mean, 30, I wouldn't presume that because here's the deal. You're never going to get anything other than what you're looking for. So if you're looking for lost jobs because of upfront payments and you communicate that onto your people, it just gives an excuse. But I would say 30 to 40% low end, I'd be fine with. 50 to 60% is great. 60 to 80% is like world class. That's what I would say as far as closing rates, either self-pay or non-self-pay. That's the range. So cool, guys. We'll see you guys at the next Restoration Rewind webinar. Hopefully you guys can come there. It will be, I think, next week at the same time. Camille will send you guys all an email and also send you an email with the recording of this webinar. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. Really appreciate all of you guys showing up, and we'll talk soon. See you guys. Love it, Deborah. Absolutely, Debbie, Yasif, Wes, Wesley, Cameron, Bob. Thanks for showing up, playing all out. Bew. Thanks, Dan. It was good to see you again. Enrique, take care, man. Mr. Seacott, I know you. Your name sounds familiar. See you, Matt. Or do you have a question? Is that the number one? If you have a question, let me know. You're welcome, Encia. Good seeing you again.